Welcome to Facts Intrigue, where history's greatest mysteries and shocking moments come to life. Today, we're uncovering the jaw-dropping, OMG moments that changed history forever. This episode, one of several to come, is a deep dive into moments that have shaped our current world. From unexpected twists in the fabric of societies to the decisive actions of influential figures, this video unravels the stories that have left indelible marks on human civilization. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey through the corridors of power and conspiracy. While some acts of daring are driven by greed or ambition, others are born from necessity, courage, and the unyielding will to survive. In the darkest days of World War II, one such act unfolded, a miraculous operation that turned a desperate retreat into an extraordinary tale of hope and resilience. This is the story of Dunkirk. In May 1940, the world was on the brink of chaos. Germany had launched a lightning-fast invasion of France and Belgium, sweeping through Allied defenses with alarming speed. Trapped against the coastline in the small French town of Dunkirk were over 400,000 Allied soldiers, British, French, and Belgian troops surrounded by advancing German forces. The situation seemed hopeless. Yet, from this dire predicament emerged one of the most extraordinary rescues in military history. Dubbed Operation Dynamo, the evacuation of Dunkirk was a logistical challenge of monumental proportions. Between May 26 and June 4, 1940, British naval forces, aided by a flotilla of civilian vessels, worked tirelessly to evacuate as many troops as possible across the English Channel. Fishing boats, pleasure yachts, ferries, and lifeboats, collectively known as the Little Ships, joined the effort, their civilian crews risking their lives to save their countrymen. Under constant threat from German bombers and artillery, the evacuation was chaotic and harrowing. Soldiers waded chest-deep into the frigid waters, clambering aboard any vessel that could carry them. The beaches became scenes of desperation and heroism as troops fought to hold back the German advance long enough to allow the evacuation to continue. Incredibly, over 338,000 men were rescued, far exceeding initial expectations. Though the operation was a tactical retreat, it became a powerful symbol of unity and resilience. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill captured the spirit of the moment in his iconic speech, describing the event as a miracle of deliverance and vowing that Britain would never surrender. The success of Dunkirk was not without sacrifice. Nearly 70,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or captured, and countless pieces of equipment were abandoned on the beaches. Yet, the rescue preserved the core of the British Expeditionary Force, allowing the Allies to regroup and continue the fight against tyranny. The miracle of Dunkirk remains a testament to the extraordinary courage of ordinary people. It was a moment when the strength of human spirit triumphed against overwhelming odds, proving that even in the darkest of times, hope and determination can prevail. If you're fascinated by these historical intrigues, hit the subscribe button to uncover more mysteries with us. Now on to one of the most famous and shocking events in history. John F. Kennedy. The Kennedy Enigma. November 22, 1963, Dallas. President John F. Kennedy's life ends at the hands of another. Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged lone gunman, was murdered before he could stand trial. The Warren Commission concluded Oswald acted alone, but doubts linger. Conspiracy theories abound: the Mafia, the CIA, the KGB. Who really pulled the trigger and why? Let's look into this closer. Kennedy, riding in a motorcade through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, was struck by an assassin's bullets. The official narrative points to Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone gunman. But over the years, numerous theories have emerged, each adding layers of intrigue and doubt to the official account. Let's start with the Zapruder film. Abraham Zapruder, a Dallas dress manufacturer, unwittingly became one of the most important witnesses when he captured the assassination on his home movie camera. This 26-second film is perhaps the most analyzed piece of footage in history. Do they truly align with the lone gunman theory? Eyewitness accounts add further layers of complexity. Some witnesses at Dealey Plaza reported hearing shots from the infamous grassy knoll, suggesting the possibility of a second shooter. Others spoke of a suspicious man holding an umbrella on a clear, sunny day, leading to the umbrella man theory. Then there are the various theories that have taken root. Some claim the mafia was involved, seeking revenge against the Kennedy administration's crackdown on organized crime. Others point to the CIA, unhappy with Kennedy's approach to Cuba and the Soviet Union. And let's not forget the potential involvement of the KGB in the midst of the Cold War. Each theory has its proponents and its pieces of evidence, but all lack definitive proof. The Warren Commission, established to investigate the assassination, concluded that Oswald acted alone. Yet, the House Select Committee on Assassinations in 1979 stated that Kennedy was likely assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. This admission fueled further speculation and investigation. What do you think? Was Lee Harvey Oswald the sole perpetrator of one of the most shocking crimes in American history, or was he a patsy in a larger, more sinister plot? Theories abound, but the truth remains elusive. As we delve deeper into these shadows of power, remember to subscribe to Facts Intrigue for more compelling stories that have shaped our world. And share your thoughts in the comments. Let's unravel these mysteries together. Now, we turn our attention to another member of the Kennedy family whose life was tragically cut short. Robert F. Kennedy, the younger brother of President John F. Kennedy, was a man of profound vision and unwavering conviction, deeply dedicated to justice and equality. On the evening of June 5, 1968, after delivering a passionate victory speech at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, California, his life was brutally ended in a cruel echo of his brother's fate, just 4 years, 6 months, and 14 days after President Kennedy's assassination. History, it seemed, had tragically repeated itself. In the moments following his speech, as he exited through the hotel's kitchen pantry, shots rang out, and chaos ensued. A 24-year-old man named Sirhan Sirhan, a Jordanian-Palestinian immigrant, was quickly subdued and taken into custody at the scene. Witnesses reported seeing Sirhan brandishing a revolver, and forensic evidence later tied him to the crime. Sirhan claimed to have acted out of personal political grievances, but questions and conspiracy theories have lingered for decades about his motives and whether others might have been involved. Found guilty of first-degree murder, Sirhan was initially sentenced to death in 1969. However, his sentence was later commuted to life in prison after California temporarily abolished the death penalty. The man who heard Robert Kennedy's last words. The busboy who held the dying man in his arms later recalled Kennedy's final words. Despite his own injuries, Kennedy's concern was for the crowd gathered around him as he asked, "Is everyone okay?" Juan Romero, just 17 at the time, became part of history in that unforgettable moment. Can you imagine being the young man in this iconic photo? Over the years, Sirhan's case has been revisited numerous times, with parole hearings and renewed debates about his culpability and mental state. Despite these efforts, Sirhan, now 80 at the time of this video, remains incarcerated, with his most recent parole request denied in March 2023. Keeping the tragic memory of that fateful night alive in the public consciousness. Next is the fall of the Berlin Wall, a moment of unity. On the evening of November 9, 1989, the world bore witness to one of the most defining moments of the 20th century, the fall of the Berlin Wall. For nearly 3 decades, this wall stood as a stark symbol of division, both physical and ideological, separating East and West Berlin during the Cold War. Erected in 1961 by the German Democratic Republic, GDR, the wall was designed to prevent East Germans from fleeing to the West. Its construction tore families apart, divided a city, and embodied the broader divide between communist and capitalist ideologies. As the Cold War tensions began to thaw in the late 1980s, cracks in the Iron Curtain started to appear. Protests for democracy and freedom swept across Eastern Europe, with citizens demanding change. By 1989, the pressure was undeniable. On November 9th, in a moment of confusion and miscommunication, a GDR government spokesperson announced in a press conference that border crossings would be allowed immediately. Though this was not the intended policy, the words sparked a tidal wave of action. That night, thousands of East Berliners gathered at checkpoints along the wall, demanding to be let through. Overwhelmed and unsure of how to respond, the border guards opened the gates. What followed was a spontaneous and joyous outpouring of unity. People from both sides climbed atop the wall, embracing, celebrating, and chipping away at the concrete barrier with whatever tools they could find. The images of crowds cheering and hugging in front of the Brandenburg Gate became iconic, signaling the end of an era. The fall of the Berlin Wall was more than the reunification of a city, it was a turning point in global history. It marked the collapse of Soviet influence in Eastern Europe and paved the way for Germany's reunification, which officially occurred less than a year later, on October 3, 1990. The moment also served as a powerful reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the universal desire for freedom. Today, remnants of the Berlin Wall stand as monuments to the past, a sobering reminder of division and a hopeful symbol of unity. The graffiti-covered fragments tell the story of a city that overcame its struggles, of a world that moved closer to peace, and of the extraordinary power of ordinary people coming together to demand change. The Great Fire of London, a city rebuilt. In the early hours of Sunday, September 2, 1666, a small fire ignited in a bakery on Pudding Lane, owned by Thomas Fariner. What began as a seemingly minor blaze soon erupted into a catastrophic inferno that would engulf the city of London. Fueled by dry wooden buildings, narrow streets, and a strong easterly wind, the fire spread rapidly, consuming homes, businesses, and landmarks in its path. For 4 relentless days, the flames raged. The medieval city, largely constructed of timber and thatch, was a tinderbox waiting to ignite. The fire burned with such intensity that molten lead poured from the roof of St. Paul's Cathedral, which had stood for over 500 years. By the time the inferno was finally extinguished, more than 13,000 homes, 87 parish churches, and countless businesses had been reduced to ashes. Astonishingly, only a handful of lives were lost, though the exact number remains uncertain. The aftermath of the Great Fire was a scene of devastation. Over 80% of Londoners were left homeless, with many forced to take refuge in makeshift camps outside the city walls. King Charles II, deeply concerned for his people, worked alongside the city's authorities to organize relief efforts and prevent further outbreaks of disease. In the midst of this destruction, the fire presented a unique opportunity for transformation. Visionaries like Christopher Wren saw the potential for a brand new city to rise from the ashes. While ambitious designs for wide boulevards and open squares were ultimately scaled back due to practicality and costs, the city underwent significant changes. Wren's masterpiece, the new St. Paul's Cathedral, became a symbol of resilience and hope, its iconic dome now one of London's most recognizable landmarks. The fire also prompted critical reforms in urban planning and safety. Laws were enacted requiring buildings to be constructed of brick or stone to prevent future disasters of this scale. Firefighting methods were improved, and insurance companies began offering fire coverage, incentivizing the development of organized fire brigades. Yet, the Great Fire left behind more than just structural changes, it reshaped the psyche of Londoners. It became a powerful metaphor for renewal and the human capacity to rebuild. While it wiped out much of medieval London, it also cleared the way for the city to emerge stronger and better equipped to face the challenges of the future. Today, the memory of the Great Fire is preserved in historical records and landmarks like the monument to the Great Fire of London, designed by Wren and standing near the site where the blaze began. It serves as a lasting reminder of the city's endurance and the extraordinary ability of its people to rise from the ashes of adversity. From the ashes of devastation to the triumph of resilience, history has shown us humanity's incredible ability to rebuild and innovate. But sometimes, our greatest moments come not from rebuilding what was lost, but from reaching for the stars, quite literally.
2, 1, 0, all engine running. Liftoff.
In 1969, the world held its breath as humanity achieved a feat that had only been imagined in science fiction. This was the moment when we left our home planet and took our first steps on the moon. On July 20th, 1969, humanity took its first steps beyond Earth's boundaries. Astronaut Neil Armstrong descended the ladder of the lunar module and famously declared,
Here, the Eagle has landed. Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot. Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now. I'm at the foot of the ladder. The 11-foot beds are only impressed in the surface about 1 or 2 inches. I'm going to step off the limb now. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The Apollo 11 mission was a triumph of innovation and perseverance, marking a moment when the world paused to look up at the stars and dream of infinite possibilities. While humanity has often looked to the stars for inspiration, we've also sought to conquer the vast and unpredictable seas. The early 20th century was an era of innovation and ambition, a time when engineers and visionaries pushed the boundaries of possibility. But sometimes, even the grandest achievements can be humbled by the forces of nature. Such was the case with one of history's most iconic maritime tragedies, the sinking of the RMS Titanic. On April 15, 1912, the RMS Titanic met its tragic fate in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. The luxury liner, deemed unsinkable, struck an iceberg during its maiden voyage, leading to the loss of over 1,500 lives. The disaster prompted significant changes in maritime safety regulations, including the requirement for adequate lifeboats and improved communication systems, leaving a legacy of lessons learned through tragedy. From the depths of the ocean to the rails that stretched across nations, human ambition has always driven us to explore and innovate. But not every story on those tracks was one of progress and unity. Some became tales of daring, cunning, and intrigue, like the infamous Great Train Robbery, a heist that stunned the world and left its mark on history. In the early hours of August 8, 1963, a crime unfolded that would become one of the most legendary heists in history. A Royal Mail train traveling from Glasgow to London carried more than just letters and packages. It was transporting a significant sum of cash, a target too tempting for a group of ambitious criminals to resist. The gang, consisting of 15 men led by Bruce Reynolds, meticulously planned the operation for months. Using insider information and careful reconnaissance, they knew exactly when and where the train would be most vulnerable. Their target, the second carriage, where banknotes destined for destruction were being transported. The haul was unprecedented, £2.6 million at the time, which would be valued at over £50 million today. In American currency, that's approximately $3.2 million then, and over $61 million in today's dollars. On the night of the robbery, the gang tampered with the railway signals at a rural stretch of track in Buckinghamshire, bringing the train to an abrupt halt. Disguised and well-organized, they overpowered the crew without using firearms, relying instead on intimidation and precision. The heist itself was executed in less than half an hour, but it was their escape plan that truly set the robbery apart. The gang retreated to a remote farmhouse, where they celebrated their success and carefully divided the stolen cash. However, despite their meticulous planning, they underestimated the determination of law enforcement. A careless fingerprint left on a Monopoly board, used during their downtime, ultimately led the police to their hideout. Over time, most of the gang members were arrested and brought to trial, with sentences ranging from lengthy prison terms to life behind bars. The Great Train Robbery captured public imagination, not only because of the sheer audacity of the crime but also because of its larger-than-life characters. Bruce Reynolds was seen by some as a criminal mastermind, while Ronnie Biggs, who escaped custody and lived as a fugitive in Brazil for decades, became an infamous figure of legend. Despite the glamour often associated with the heist, the robbery had real victims. The train's driver, Jack Mills, was struck over the head during the raid, leaving him with lasting injuries. The crime also sparked a national debate on security and the romanticization of criminal acts. the Great Train Robbery remains one of the most talked about heists in history. It was a tale of precision, deception, and the eternal conflict between ambition and justice, a story that reminds us how thin the line can be between boldness and folly. As we journey through history's most unforgettable moments, we're reminded of the triumphs, tragedies, and extraordinary resilience that have shaped our world. From daring rescues to miraculous feats and devastating losses, these stories teach us lessons about humanity's spirit, ambition, and the cost of progress. Thank you for joining us here on Facts Intrigue, on this exploration of the past. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like this video, share it with others who love history, and subscribe to Facts Intrigue for more fascinating stories. What historical event do you find most compelling? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious and keep uncovering the mysteries of our world.